Hello and welcome to, well, something a little bit different today on the Mole Under Management channel. My name is Chaosmole, and today there was the Paradox Gaming Showcase. As you probably know, if you have ever dabbled in strategy games, Paradox has been developing strategy games for decades, and they have basically covered all, like turn-based games, city management games, grand strategy games, RTS games. They basically have everything at this point, and it made sense for me to watch that live. By the way, if you want to see my whole reactions and the full live stream, please click on the link down in the video description. This will bring you to my main channel at Chaosmole, and this is where I watched it together with my community here on YouTube. But what you are seeing here is one of the three big games Paradox has announced today, and this is the, oh god, please don't be wrong, the Lamplighter League. And this is by Harebrained Schemes. And no, this is unfortunately not a new battle tech or a new Shadowrun game. This is something entirely new. Well, it is, at least when it comes to the IP. It is not really new when it comes to the gameplay, because this is a turn-based strategy game where you have multiple heroes and you're going around the world and you are trying to find artifacts. It's a bit a mix of a Indiana Jones meets XCOM. I really love the art style. I really love how it looks and the world. This is playing in the year 1932, and you have some soldiers which are looking familiar. They're not Nazi Germans yet, but I would say they're getting pretty close to what alternate history would look like, I assume. And there are also some fantasy enemies there. And, well, as I said before, this game is a turn-based game. And I have to admit, it looks interesting. Again, I really love the art style, and I'm curious to see more of it. But it didn't, like, there wasn't gameplay-wise anything where I was going, whoa, this just blew my mind. I have never seen this before. Now, it doesn't have to be. I love me some games which are familiar, and I kind of know what to expect. And as I said, this looks kind of cool, especially with the idea that you can now do stuff before shit hits the fan. And you can sneak around, you can take out enemies without there isn't a fight breaking out. So that's a pretty cool idea, but we have seen similar things and similar ideas before, and I'm really curious how it actually plays and what the big difference is. But it looks cool, but from all the three games they have showcased today, I would say this was the least interesting one for me, or at least the least promising one. I think that fits it better. Yeah, it was the least promising one, right? And then we have to go to the second game of the day, and I have to admit, the second big game they have announced today, it's really, really short, but I think nobody saw this coming. I was actually joking that they would showcase a racing game, but in reality, they showed Life by You, and it is a Sims game. Can you believe it? After all those years, decades even, where people just backed Paradox to finally do something with the whole idea of the Sims, we finally get a Sims. Well, they didn't showcase much. This is all we are getting. And then they will have a full showcase on March 20th, which we will watch, of course, together. And then I will give you a sit rep here on the channel. But as I said, this is something nobody really expected. I will be honest, I didn't expect a Sims game. I didn't expect that. Like, as I said, we have backed Paradox for many, many years to finally make it happen, because they were always so close sometimes with their games, especially Crusader Kings. I always was joking that Crusader Kings is basically The Sims without the whole building and real interaction, but from a social interaction perspective, Crusader Kings is getting really close to that. And I'm just now completely flabbergasted that they're actually doing it, especially where a new Sims with Project Renee is already announced. So it might actually happen that the new Sims and Life by You are clashing. And do you remember where that happened to? Where we had this before? Yeah, that's right. SimCity and City Skylines. And we all know how that ended. Paradox was mopping the floor with Electronic Arts and SimCity. Now, look, I have to level with you. I'm a Sims fan. I have over 800 hours in The Sims 4 alone, leaving alone The Sims 1, The Sims 2, and The Sims 3. I think the last time I checked, I had over 1,000 hours in The Sims 3. I'm getting a little bit closer to the 1,000 hours in The Sims 4, and I'm a Sims nerd. I admit it. I have always been a fan of The Sims because you could really, with mod support and even without mods, you could really go beyond a lot of the weird stuff which was in the game. But the reality is, The Sims 4 was the weakest entry we ever had in the series, and it became only good over the last 6-7 years since they fixed it and actually added like all the features they removed. Now, this is of course a steep hill to climb for Paradox to just fight against The Sims, but I kinda could see it happening. I could actually see Paradox just beating EA to it. Like, especially with the new Sims coming out, where we only know a few tidbits here and there, and they seem to focus very much on the whole online play, and people are a little bit concerned about the modding capabilities when everything is always online. And there are just so many questions we have with Project Renee that if we are getting basically a Sims 5 with exactly the features we asked for, whoa. Like, whoa. This is also made by, oh god, I always forget his name. Do not ask me for the name. But this is made by one of the original Sims creators, right? And they were basically opening up the studio in 2019, so that was 4 years ago. So I would assume that this game is relatively long away, or not long away, but pretty far into development. And I think it will also be released this year. But again, this was like, I saw that, and if they're giving us also a really good building mode, then I could see this game maybe splitting up the Sims community, or maybe make a lot of people quit, at least till Project Renee is coming out, and then Project Renee has to showcase that they are still the king, right? But I'm just happy that we are finally getting competition, right? Like, yes, I know there is another Sims-esque game out there which is supported by Kickstarter, but this is still something else, right? It's still different when it comes to the money aspect. There's Kickstarter, and then there's Paradox. Sure, still less money than EA has, but doesn't mean anything at that point. We have learned that with EA games. But yeah, I didn't saw that coming. And for everyone who is just remotely interested in the Sims game, keep an eye out on this. Now, of course, we have to dissect like all the information we get. Definitely watch the video with my reactions on my main channel, because we also took another deep dive on this after the showcase, which is on the same video. And I basically took the few frames we got here completely apart and gave my opinion on it. But yeah, we will see more on March 20th, and then I will be back with some thoughts on that. Now, let's have one last thing we have to watch. And I have to admit, it was kind of a surprise, but it also wasn't a surprise after the massive success City Skylines was, and they announced City Skylines 2. Yep. And the trailer didn't showcase anything. This was a CGI trailer. Maybe it was in engine. They made it clear this is not gameplay what we are seeing here, but maybe it was in engine. And what they are showing here with the cities is kind of interesting because they say they want to revolutionize the city building management games like they did with City Skylines. And they really want to just get it to the next level. And I'm really curious about this. If this is in-engine and not a CGI trailer as I expect and suspect, that would be crazy. Because, don't get me wrong, I love City Skylines. I put hundreds of hours in that game. But with all that said, City Skylines had their limitations. And those limitations definitely also came from the engine. Like they made it clear multiple times before that the engine had their technical limits. There were things they couldn't do, right? Like a few things where people were like, man, why didn't you patch that in? Like one of the complaints back in the day, I still remember that, was like the seasons, right? They made an expansion about the seasons. It was one of the very few expansions for the game. And when that came out, people were like, wait a second. Seriously, Paradox? Or Colossal Order? You're doing this now? You give us seasons? Like, that's all we get? And they were explaining that, yeah, because this was actually quite a bit of work to have, like, or not even seasons, right? You can only play a map in one status, on one state. Like, you can only play it in snow, or you can only, like, play it in summer or fall or something like that. But the seasons never changed, and what I meant was actually day and night cycle, right? They added day and night cycle, and people were like, wait, that's an expansion? Like, you couldn't patch that in, and they made it pretty clear that no, because it is a lot of work. It is a lot of work, and especially with the engine they had, which is Unity, it was, back in the day, quite a bit of work. So it seems like this is now all in from the beginning, the seasons, day and night cycle. And it seems also like they want to integrate, like, the people who are living in the city more in your daily life. Because let's be real here, yes, there were people living in your city, but they just existed in the city. They didn't really live in it. They didn't really have thoughts, or they didn't really want that you push the city into some direction. You more or less build a city, and then people moved in and lived in it, but you never really had an interaction with them, right? There was no real conversation happening with the people living in your city that you ask them, hey, what type of industry you want to see, what type of buildings, what do you need? Like, you only got 3 bars which told you we need more residents, we need more industry, and we need more retail. And that was kind of it, but you never really had the feeling that you were managing a city. If you understand what I mean with that, I hope I explained it right. But there's a lot. I was first thinking, nah, they're not doing a Cities Skylines 2. Why would they? Like, they put already so much in the game through DLCs and expansions. Like, what else could they do? And then the more I thought about it and the more I talked to my community about this, I realized, oh shit. No, actually, there is quite a bit of stuff they could do. Because they were severely limited by the engine, and they were also limited by, well, their first ideas, right? This was like their first game like this, exactly. Yes, they had, what was it, Cities in Motion, I think it was, but this was very different. And it was a huge success. Like, they announced that they had over 20 million players. Last year alone, they sold like, what, 5 million copies of the game? And it's like, wow, that's still crazy after all those years. So, it seems like we are dining fine this year as strategy fans. Like, it's crazy how many interesting and probably very good strategy games we are getting this year. And I'm not just talking about Paradox, I mean that in general, right? So, the one which I'm the most curious about is the Sims game, Is Life by You. And the second one is definitely Cities Skylines 2. And man, do they have to be on point with this, because I am pretty sure that the Cities Skylines community will take apart every single piece that will put out for this game before they release it, and they will digest it quite a bit. Oh yeah, one of the big features I assume they're doing, and you can see it a little bit here in the picture, is like, look in the background. It seems like there's another city there. So maybe they're doing now multiple cities and you can connect them or something like that. We will see. There's a lot of possibilities. But with that said, we're done here. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like on your way out. It really, really, really helps me out a big deal, more than you can think of. And if you're new here and you just found the channel, hey, my name is Mo. I am playing strategy games since my early childhood, since the early 90s. Like, strategy games were always my bread and butter. And that is what we are covering here on the channel, and only covering here. Like, if you love strategy management games of any shape or form, this is the channel for you. So look a little bit around, and I hope you will enjoy it, and don't forget to subscribe. With that said, thank you so much for watching, stay safe, and I'll see you next time.